speaking, if you look at the way we are actually conducting exams, especially the entrance exams for B school, we are using a standard matrix. So standard matrix, when I say it means, for instance, something which is trying to understand whether students are good at verbal aptitude or quantitative aptitude, or majorly if, for instance, they can think on the move. So even speed is a part of testing. And if we have to bring, for instance, the perspective of entrepreneurship, or we want to measure their entrepreneurial mindset, definitely we will have to make a few modifications in the current structure of these tests. For instance, if it comes to entrepreneurial mindset, what is a part of entrepreneurial mindset is something which we all have to understand. For instance, do they have entrepreneurial orientation? When I say entrepreneurial orientation, are they good at adaptability or resilience? Right? Are they independent? Do they have accountability? Are they creative enough? Can they think out of the box? Or, for instance, if they have future focused or goal orientation. And to actually bring all these perspectives in evaluating students for entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial classrooms, I guess it's quite challenging. So for that, we will have to, for instance, add a few more dimensions. We will have to bring behavioral aspect in our exams, which is not possible in standardized exams. Definitely, we will have to add to the test new vertical, you can say, or a new format, which would be more about assessing them on behavioral interviews or competency-based behavioral interviews. It's a very good question. See, I can talk about my exam. I have an understanding of how different exams are conducted because we keep a track of what is getting evaluated. As I initially told, almost all the exams try to test students on verbal ability and logical reasoning plus quantitative aptitude. These are the two most important dimensions of all the exams, especially for getting admitted to B schools, except for XAT, which is our exam. When it comes to XAT, we have a section called decision making, where we try to evaluate students on the basis of how they can arrive at a conclusion or a decision based on given resources. And also, there's a limitation of time. Now, when it comes to entrepreneurial thinking or entrepreneurial orientation, definitely problem solving is an important aspect, which gets assessed in our exam definitely as a separate section. But in regular exams or regular entrance exams, I don't think it is directly getting captured. But yes, of course, when they are taking quantitative aptitude section or verbal ability or logical reasoning, they are trying to use their problem solving skills, but in general, not specifically. So I guess we have still not been able to design a matrix which can actually assess the important aspects of entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial mindset. In that, definitely it gets covered due to our decision making section, which is a USP of our exam. But of course, we will have to do more because there is something called creativity, there is something called emotional intelligence or leadership skills. They all should get evaluated while we are assessing students on entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial orientation. Again, this is something which is very interesting as a question which you have asked. I will tell you why. Because what is happening is, if you look at our exams, the current exams which we are conducting. So when I say we, I mean that I am conducting, or our office is conducting, and XLRI and XAMI members are conducting, and other exams which are conducted all over the country. When it comes to assessing entrepreneurial mindset, it's very difficult. Why? Because there is no direct correlation between what we are measuring and entrepreneurial mindset, except for, I've already told you, the one aspect of our exam, that exam, that is decision making, which is directly connected to entrepreneurial mindset or problem solving skills. So I don't know, for instance, how will we be able to measure entrepreneurial mindset, which is very wide. For that, if we can include behavioral interviews simultaneously, and also we will have to incorporate some understanding of how to measure leadership in these exams. If we can do that, definitely it can make the matrix better or more robust. Otherwise, the problem is that we try to evaluate people based on the regular stuff, and that regular stuff is not, they are actually about intelligences. Obviously, you need to have verbal ability, you need to have logical reasoning, or you need to have, for instance, you need to understand the functional aspect of how to apply the quantitative aptitude. Definitely these skills are important for running businesses, but because entrepreneurial mindset, it is itself a unique kind of an orientation, which not only requires you to be good at, for instance, verbal, quantitative, or logical reasoning, it also wants you to be good at emotional intelligence. It also wants you to be good at, for instance, taking leadership roles, or you have to maintain resilience. At the same time, you have to focus on sustainability or running your business smoothly. At the same time, you need to have risk taking abilities. So, if you have to incorporate all these dimensions, it becomes very challenging for a test like the test which we conduct. But of course, as I've already mentioned, and I'm reiterating, that if we can actually bring in behavioral aspect in our interviews, which can be uh, a kind of a supplement to this exam, and in those behavioral interviews, if we can actually use competency based behavioral interview technique, or we get into to the behavioral interviews and try to understand their orientation on these dimensions, obviously the entrepreneurial mindset can get captured, and it can help us in identifying the people who can do wonders in the area of entrepreneurship. Measuring entrepreneur success is actually very crucial these days, because as a country we need to invest, and we have people with the potential also who can do wonders. So entrance exam can help if we make modifications. I already advised, right? Like if we can actually modify our exams, make our metrics also more inclusive. We should get out of that traditional mindset of creating exams where we have a particular way of assessing students, right? So the best way is, like, we have to understand, for instance, uh, we have to understand students on a matrix called a matrix of innovation, right? How they are innovating. For that, we will have to either create tests, or we will have to separately create an institution which can help in measuring students, uh, or in developing understanding of if they can actually be successful entrepreneurs or have a particular mindset. So we can actually assess students on innovation, or we can assess students on how, whenever they are coming with a solution, does it have an element of sustainability or longevity, which is also very important, right? Like business longevity, coming up with idea is one issue, right? But if you can come up with a solution, and coming up with solution along with understanding of if this particular business idea has longevity, right? And if my business itself is resilient enough to adapt to the market changes in crisis, if that is there, obviously this can help. So we can actually understand businesses based on sustainability, longevity, or innovation. At the same time, we also need to understand, there is a term for evaluating entrepreneurs called entrepreneurial cohesiveness. How good an entrepreneur is in developing, leadership and leadership team, or how good they are in creating a very resilient and cohesive team to run businesses. So can they retain talent? At the same time, attracting talent is easy, right? There are people available, but can they retain that talent? Can they inspire people by doing things, by going ahead? At the same time, are they good at network development? Can they connect? Can they spread information? So this is something which we can use to evaluate. And also learning and adaptation, which is a very important and crucial skill for entrepreneurs, right? So it's not that you fail and you stop. From your failures you learn, and you bring those inputs of failures in making another successful venture. So do they have the orientation to learn from their failures, and can they change according to the needs? At the same time, with the most important metrics which we can use to evaluate the entrepreneurial businesses or entrepreneurial mindset is how good our entrepreneurs are in, for instance, creating a social capital, right? So, which means, like, for instance, can their businesses help in creating networks, or they can help further these networks? Can they further help in creating opportunities and collaborations in the business world? If that is possible, well and good. At the same time, can they become thought leaders to inspire others? So this social capital and influence itself be an important matrix to evaluate the students, or to evaluate the people with entrepreneurial mindset. So obviously we can measure. I have already told you these are the ways in which we can measure, starting with innovation, going from innovation to sustainability and longevity, or leadership and team building attitude, along with learning and adaptation, plus social capital and influence. But on the top of it, at the end of the day, we use a traditional matrix, which should not be ignored, is something called financial success, right? How well established they are, like what is their revenue growth, what is their profitability, and for instance, can their ventures be scaled up, and what is the perceived value of the company in the market? If that is also used along with these dimensions, obviously we'll be able to measure better how, for instance, good a person is with entrepreneurial mindset. And I don't know if these can be incorporated in any test format. Obviously, XAT tries to measure a particular dimension of entrepreneurship. But in general and as a whole, we have not been able to establish any test as such, which can help in understanding somebody's entrepreneurial mindset in totality. And if that happens, obviously the country will get benefited at large.